Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We have a fellow varsity human in the house that's going to lay down a bunch of intel on building leaders, in particular our young leaders. You know, Turmeric and Tequila and myself out here, we are very passionate about inspiring and empowering people, but particularly our young people. So this is an exciting one today. If you've got young humans at home, coach, parent, whatever it might be, this is the conversation for you. Before we jump in, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Our new title sponsor, Colorado Clownfish Swim School, right here in Colorado. They have swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. We believe in life skills through sports, so come waterproof your family today. Check them out at coloradoclownfish.com. And our very own Declan James watches. They are veteran owned, and 10% of all their sales go back to the Navy SEAL Foundation. So go check them out. Fellow CrossFitter, they are a very close family. So lean into all the great things they have going on. Without further ado, let's welcome Amy Chambers to the TNT mic. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, thanks.
We're going to rock and roll. We already had like a bunch of convo before we got on the mic, so I know this is going to be good. I do want to read her background because this is a varsity human, has checked a lot of boxes early and has a wealth of experience. Amy is an executive coach, life coach, leadership consultant, speaker, and author. Her 2 books, 7 Virtues of Exceptional Leaders and 6 Habits of Powerful People, were both #1 on Amazon. They were bestsellers. Prior to starting her own business, Amy spent 21 years in financial services. She began her career as a teller and left the industry as a chief operating officer. She has over 15 years of leadership experience, including a decade of regional director or chief roles. Amy upholds an undergraduate degree from the University of Notre Dame and an MBA from the University of Southern California. In her personal time, Amy's an avid runner. Since 2015, she has run over 240 half marathons. My God, 12 full marathons and hundreds of other races totaling 14,000 miles. She's an avid skier, longtime cyclist, rollerblader, tennis player, and photographer. Amy, good God, let's go. Good work on all these things.
Thank you.
Dude, if you're not like shaping the world, you're out there running it.
That's right. Yeah, figuratively and literally. Before I became a marathon runner, I couldn't even run a mile. I could not make it to the end of the block without huffing and puffing and having to stop. So running really became this area of, oh, wow, we can do hard things and we can learn and change and grow and transform from what we were before into who we're going to be. So, yep, running is the word.
Hey, amen. I know I didn't even think about running the actual world like leadership wise, but there you go. Universe sometimes just comes through its way. I'm just out here as a puppet for the real conversation. But we have a lot to talk about because I'm so excited about leadership and making decisions. We're kind of in a crazy time in our world where personal empowerment and making your own choices and being intentional with what you do and how you move forward is really critical. And it's happening younger and younger. And you're the perfect leader and person to advise on these steps. But before we get into all that, on TNT, I always like to ask my humans, before we get into the mission and the madness that's going on now, tell us about young Amy, because I do think the stars are aligned and what we're going to do is happening very, very young.
I love it. So I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I was an only child. I had a happy childhood, but one of the things I see very clearly when I look back now is that I lived with a lot of fear. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to belong. I cared a lot about what people thought of me. So if I wasn't sure in advance that I could be successful at something, I would hold off on trying. And so it prevented me from going out for sports teams. If I did something once and I failed, I would never do it again. And so I look back at that version of myself and I wish I knew things that I knew now. I'm a much different person. So yeah, young Amy was much different than present day Amy.
Absolutely. Well, we have that. I think the breakdowns and breakthroughs are always critical. What do you think was the turning point that you transitioned into Amy now? Like what was, because I'm always curious on like what lights our kids' fires to like do the right thing or do the hard thing? Like what choice point happens where you move in a different direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. The quote I love to use is that change happens when staying the same becomes harder than the pain of the change. And I went through a breakup back in 2015 and I was just blindsided. I was really depressed. And I just said to myself at that point, I really want to do something with this. And I've got this grief and this loss, and I've got this space in my life now. I'm not out with that group of friends that I socialized with that partner. We're not traveling as much together. We're not together all the time. So I got myself a mentor. I started reading books. That was kind of when I got into running. And I began to realize, oh my gosh, I've been depending on other people to make me happy. Happiness can come from within. What do I really want out of life? Who am I? What are my values? What am I proud to stand for? And so I went through really a year kind of breakup, a grieving process. And from that year came a very different version of myself because I took the time to be introspective. So it was a breakup that started it all.
Yeah. I think especially for my high achievers and my mission-driven humans, anyone that, even if you label yourself that or not, I usually think it takes a pretty hard kick in the gut for us to pivot or see. I mean, I had major injuries or things that I probably should have seen some writing on the wall prior, but I didn't. Like I would say I was blindsided, but now I've built an awareness. Do you think there was something like in retrospect, you're like, you said you're blindsided, but like looking back, were you like, oh man, I just had no idea, or I didn't see certain things where I should have?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I look back at that relationship. It was a very codependent relationship. If my partner wasn't approving or excited about the things I wanted to do, I would sort of give up on him and say, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't need to do that either. And it would be the same thing with his stuff. It felt like all of our decisions were the same. And so I didn't have something that was my own. I didn't have my own goals and my own hopes and my own dreams. And yeah, I look back now and think, oh my gosh, all of that was really dangerous and kind of a red flag. And yet at the time, it didn't dawn on me.
I really want to unpack some. We're going to get to the book and leadership, but I think this is really critical. And this has been coming up in my world and circle of friends that have kids, and these relationships, these really intense, like romantic relationships are happening really young. And you're a kid, like we don't know how to navigate a lot. I'm even at 40, I'm still figuring it out, 44. And so it's a wild world, but like relationships, I'd say, you know, romantic or not, it's hard to navigate your individuality. And I think as a 44-year-old looking back in my own breakdown and breakthroughs, leaning on whatever might have been or whatever the story or excuse was, I really had to learn to truly be myself and be on my own and be comfortable in that. And I felt like when that started to click over, the right opportunities personally, professionally, romantically started to come in. Do you relate to that? And is there any sort of like breakthrough or advice you have around that for our young people that might be in big relationships, but they can build that awareness now?
I love that. And I do have thoughts on it. Probably the biggest piece of advice I could give is for people to figure out what their core values are at a really young age. And so some of mine, authenticity, accountability, transparency, integrity, humility, curiosity. I have come up with definitions for those words. For example, accountability. I do what I say. I always keep my commitments. And so what I've done is once I've had those core values, I've learned to work backwards and say, I only put myself in social situations, professional situations, situations with friends where I can live those values. And anyone that doesn't support me in those values, they're not a fit for me. And so instead of trying to reactively kind of fit into what others give me, I show up sort of saying, this is who I am and I'm proud of those things. And I don't believe I'm for everyone or everyone's for me. And so I'll show up, I'll live my core values, I won't deviate from them. And I'll know pretty quickly the people that are excited to be with someone like that and the ones that aren't. And I'll just have no qualms in walking away from situations where I feel like I'm going to be misaligned or incongruent with my values. And so it's a lot of trust in ourselves and a lot of cherishing ourselves and a lot of self-love and self-compassion and us believing we're worthy and we're valuable and that we don't have to conform. There's enough people in the world that if we stay true to what we really feel in our heart, the right people will come. And so I wish more middle school, high school age people knew that, because I do see a lot of people trying to conform and I want to be popular. And I sort of made this bad decision because of peer pressure and other people were doing it. And I couldn't find my own voice. So you start with the values, you work backwards. I think it's easier in the moment to make the right decision.
Amen. So well said. I'm completely in alignment. Like I always think when things are coming up naturally in the universe, there is like a reason that we converse on turmeric and tequila or in general. And it's big right now. And I think our kiddos are years ahead of where we were at our age, and they're exposed to things. And I also think they're, more tapped in. They're more conscious consumers. They know what to do. Mm-hmm. And if these are newer words to you as parents or as kids, I always say, and I'm curious if this resonates to you, pay attention to how your body feels. Like if something just doesn't feel right, like if you're not familiar with authenticity or core values or things, you should like go look it up, go check in. And I think it's enough if something just doesn't feel right or does feel right, like leaning into that, to the way you feel and that awareness within. Does that resonate with you? Or is that part of your journey?
Oh my gosh, so much. It's funny to hear you say that. Just in the last 10 years, I've gotten better about asking myself the question, and you have to pause and stop and pull back to do it. Hey, what's going on for me right now? How am I feeling right now? What's happening in my system right now? And that has helped me lean into the right situations and pull away from the wrong ones. I never used to ask myself that. I grew up, I talked a little about my childhood earlier, as a people pleaser, as a perfectionist. My parents, they had, great interests and my best in heart and in their mind, but they really wanted me to achieve and produce and be successful. And so they sort of taught me to be thinking of, hey, what's next? How can you do even better? What's more? What's the next thing? And so I got kind of swept up, and I've got to get all A's. I've got to get a great job. I've got to go back and get an MBA. I've got to rise to the top as quickly as possible. I did not make a lot of time to sort of say, hey, am I even liking what I'm doing right now? Does this organization, does this relationship, does this friendship feel good to me? Like, am I happy when I'm spending time in it? And if I'm not, hey, maybe it's okay to do something else. But I never would ask myself those questions because I would view that as quitting. And so, this has been a massive change in how I show up every day for myself versus what I did 10 or 15 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, how hard is it to just be still when you've always got something to do? You're always thinking about the next move. And then if you do sit still, you're almost you're anxious because there's something like, it's like wasted time. But the most important thing you can do is be still. Is that like a practice you still incorporate to this day?
Yeah, this is very relatable for me. If I was home on a Sunday previously, like watching TV, or I didn't have a big long to-do list, I would feel like something was wrong. Like, oh, I'm being lazy, or I'm giving up on today. And now I intentionally schedule time for rest, recovery, healing, just time to reflect, just time to think, time to journal, time to read. And it's funny, taking those breaks and kind of sharpening the saw, or recharging our batteries that way. When we get back into our professional and our personal lives, we're so much better. We're more energized. We're able to do better. And so that fear, that anxiousness or worry of like, oh my God, I can't be still, it's really just a trick our subconscious mind is playing on us. So yeah, I intentionally schedule it into every week, or even a little bit each day. And if I have a day or two where I'm like, God, I really went, from morning to nighttime without that rest, I make a point of saying, tomorrow you've got to build in time for that, because you deserve that and you need that. So yeah, very relatable what you're saying.
Yeah. I've had to kind of even shift the conversation myself of like, it's not rest time. It's time for thinking to come in. It's still like I'm still kind of doing something, but not really. But I'm like connecting with, I say God, universe, Madonna, whatever you believe. I'm a big Madonna fan. So you can let like the power come in. And so it's not like we're sitting there resting, doing nothing. We're sitting there intentionally doing nothing that is something. So whatever game you have to play, you do it. And I tell for my parents with like kiddos, the second you run in from the door from school, just take 5 minutes with your kids, and they'll start this practice easily early, and just be like, I want you to sit for 5 minutes, think about how you feel, and then you can go do whatever you want, whatever, and get in it. And not only does it make like them do it, then you do it with them. So it's all the games we got to play.
I think the reason that's so powerful, like the pause or the 5 minutes, is that it shifts our brain. We spend a lot of time in autopilot. And so when we force ourselves to pause, it allows our conscious mind to come in and kind of set intention and say, how do I want to feel for the rest of the day? What do I want the rest of the day to look like? Again, how am I doing right now? What's going on for me? And so that 5 minutes, it's a very small amount of time, but it's enough for the conscious brain and our heart and our mind and our emotions and our rational to kind of all meet and say, like, where are we at right now? And so when we don't take that 5 minutes, we kind of get carried away, sometimes not even knowingly. Our subconscious takes us to places that are really not serving us or helpful for us. So I love the 5 minutes. I think that's great.
Something easy. I feel like if I preach it, then it also makes me do it, because we got to walk in it. So it's funny how certain things in our lives like keep us accountable. I really would love for you, because you've had incredible success as a young person getting out of college, obviously academic success, and then you climbed the corporate ladder, but you had this disconnect as far as being happy, kind of leading from our conversation of internal questioning and whatnot. I would really love for you to display like some of that corporate success. You were a homeowner early, all by the age, I think, of like 36?
Yep. Different things at different times, but definitely by 36, a lot of those things that happened.
Okay, so give us the highlight reel of what you did, because you did a lot from the titles and everything else, and then kind of that pivot point of like you did that pause, the questioning, and then my favorite thing ever, I guess my mom, but saying following your heart, you took that step and you followed your heart.
Yeah. So after college, I went to Washington, D.C. I worked for a commercial bank there, went through kind of a management leadership development program, kind of a fast track thing, was there for a few years, decided, hey, I want to go back and get an MBA because at that time I'm still operating with this, more is better. And I got to get education and I've got to get senior titles. And so I came here to LA, went to USC, moved from a branch manager of a bank to a commercial manager. And things were okay. I was making good money. I felt kind of job security and all that. But I began realizing I was sort of out of alignment with this kind of greater calling or these values in my heart. I had these dreams of writing a book and coaching or consulting. But every time I would think about maybe I should leave, maybe I should just strike out on my own, my boss would be there sort of offering a promotion. Why don't you take over the call center? Or why don't you take over wealth management? And so I stayed. And I moved to credit unions. And that was a really cool move because I will tell you that what I did figure out is that we should come into work and organizations loving what we do, but also being aligned with company. I talked about personal core values. Most companies have core values. And I left places, I'll just be specific. Wells Fargo was a place that I really struggled at because at the time I was there, I felt like, gosh, I don't know that this company is really doing the things we put on walls and, caring about the customer. Later, they had some public lawsuits to that end. And I just realized that I and what I wanted was more important than what a boss asked me to do. And so I kept leaving organizations where I felt like, our walk didn't match the talk. But I got into credit unions where it was a customer, client, member centric organization. We were trying to do the right things, had a great boss who invested in me and continued to give me opportunities. We're still great friends today. But at some point, I realized the development plans he had me on to become a CEO someday and to learn the lending side of the house, which is kind of the one thing I didn't manage in financial services. I wasn't passionate about them. I wasn't excited and just, skipping home of like, yes, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do more of this. And I began to really do some soul searching. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on for me is I'm scared. I'm scared to leave the money. I'm scared to leave the title. I'm scared of what my family will think. I'm scared to give up this stability and go down to zero income and start completely over with clients. But I realized that if I were to be hit by a bus or die early somehow, I would have this incredible regret that I never just went for it. So yeah, early 2021, or I guess late 2021, struck out on my own. It was still kind of in the middle of the pandemic. So sort of a wild time to just be leaving a job. But I just really said, I've got to believe in myself. I've got to believe that this is going to work in abundance mindset versus scarcity. And I've got to believe if I put forth my best efforts and give it the time, I'm going to win. And if I don't, for whatever reason, I'll be so proud of myself for having tried. So kind of took this step away from financial services to follow my heart and see if I could hack it as a one-on-one coach. So yeah, it's been a great journey.
Hell yeah. You gotta it's really hard to, I think, take that step one and really believe in yourself. And that's like the number one thing I would say to parents also is like, tell your kid you're proud of them, tell them you love them, but say you believe in them. Like get that language early so they start to believe in themselves, because pride and love and these things are great. But man, without belief, I don't think you can really do anything. And it's these big moments in life where you're questioning stuff that you have to do it. No one's going to do it but you. And I love that these leadership programs in the corporate world kind of start having you question about it. It's almost like they're training you to see the light and get the hell out.
Yeah, it's really it's nice to work for an organization that gives you tools and resources. Sure. And I do think that the best organizations out there would say if someone chooses to leave because they've identified another path for them, we should be really excited about that. We should be really happy for them. So that's cool. Yeah. I think the belief is really key. A lot of people say I'll believe it when I see it. And I like to say that backwards because I believe that we tend not to see things until we believe it. And I always look at Colonel Sanders, who started KFC, or Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb. Everyone was telling these people, you're crazy. You can't do what you're trying to do. And thank goodness that they stayed with it, even after like 1,000 attempts. I think Colonel Sanders knocked on 1,008 doors before he got his yes for his Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe. And Thomas Edison has said, I've failed, or I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 ways not to do it. But they stayed with it because they believed in what they had and believed in themselves. And thanks to that, that belief in themselves, we have KFC and the light bulb. So I think you're so right that parents should start early, helping children believe in their abilities and their ability to make great things for themselves. That's wonderful that you've said that.
Yeah, let's go. I mean, I think both of us as coaches, I don't want to speak for you, but I think we can say this. If you're listening and you're the human that is questioning the better way, or the one that is going against the odds or chasing the thing that's really, really hard, we are your coaches. Like, we are the ones that are in it with you. That's like, yeah, let's go knock down the wall. I have no guarantees, but I'm in it with you on this journey.
Yeah.
And I think that's not everybody, but those kinds of people, if you're listening, that resonates, like KFC and Thomas Edison and the Madonnas or whatever your thing is, like those are our humans.
Yeah.
So I just have to put that plug out there. Do you get some of your clients and you're like, I fucking love this so much, like we're just gonna go out there, we're gonna go fight the storm and just believe enough to just see what happens?
I have a few clients that have completely transformed their lives since working with me. And I didn't do that work. They did that work for themselves. Sure. But it took a small little shift in mindset and us having dialogue about these concepts. And then once they got it, they've just ran away with the ball. And they come to their weekly coaching calls, just kind of at this point, providing updates about how they're conquering. And it's really fun to see. I'm thinking about one client in particular. He was afraid to go to the gym because he'd been bullied as a young child. He had a boss that was sort of abusive towards him. And so he wasn't necessarily thinking that he could get out from under that position, and was sort of thinking, maybe I've leveled out and capped out at what I'm capable of. He had been sort of taught as a child to have kind of this awkward relationship with money. Like, maybe I have enough. I don't really deserve more. Those salaries that other people have, maybe that's not for me. And since just sort of realizing, oh my gosh, like maybe some of these beliefs are outdated. I can learn new ones. These things came from my childhood. Maybe I do belong in a gym. Maybe I can do whatever I want from a career standpoint. Maybe I do deserve to be paid exceptionally well. He's made those things happen for him. And it's so fun to see what a difference when we believe, when we choose to be proud of ourselves. A couple of things I would add is that the best clients I have and the ones that are most successful, they expect stuff to be hard. They expect to struggle. They don't think it's going to be easy. And so when they fail or they make mistakes or they start having adversity, it's not doom and gloom and, oh my gosh, woe is me. They never play the victim. They figure out what their next step is going to be, and they just take it day by day. But they don't despair like, oh my gosh, this is a struggle, and so it must be something's wrong. They actually say, it's supposed to be hard. I want it to be hard. It must mean I'm growing. It must mean I'm learning. And so I think that has been a really helpful tool. And the people I see doing the best is that they approach each day like that.
Absolutely. I mean, so well said. And I think that failure piece, you're so right, is to me, it's like a sign of life. Like, if you're out there and you're competing with the best, you're probably going to get kicked, knocked down, lose the game, mess up the practice, whatever, a lot for that one point of success. So if you're not out there in failing, you're probably not with like the biggest and best or doing the hardest thing. Like, that should be part of the process.
Yeah, totally. There's this quote by Michelangelo. It's the greater danger. And I think it goes, the greater danger is not that we set the bar too low and we achieve it. Or I guess it's that we set the bar too high and we miss, but that we do set the bar too low and we achieve it. And so I love what you're saying. If you're getting knocked down, if you're getting kicked, if it's a struggle, it probably means that you're running with people slightly above your abilities. That's how you're going to get better. It's exactly where you need to be. And it's exactly what's supposed to be happening for you. So yeah, I think it's a really cool mindset for people to adopt at a young age.
Hell yes. Yes. And again, earlier than us. So you've got 2 books, 7 Virtues of Exceptional Leaders and 6 Habits of Powerful People. Both were #1, as I mentioned. I really want to talk about 6 Habits of Powerful People, how this intertwines for everybody. But again, focusing on our young people, I would even say from like 10 to 25, that these habits are applicable. Like I said, we have conscious consumers. Our kiddos get it early. Tell us about the book, who it's for, but how it can specifically apply to our young humans.
Yeah, so HABITS is an acronym, so I'll just quickly give you what the letters stand for. H is have honest humility, A is for act or action, B is for befriending our brain, which we've actually already talked about a lot. I is for inspire ourselves. T, it's similar, but I found it to be different, is trust and treasure ourselves. And then S is to stay securely strong. And so there's very actionable steps and practices that people can follow. The book is just chock full with very kind of simple things that we can do every day. I talk about creating a vision statement or beginning with the end in mind. I talk about having a gratitude journal and choosing to focus on the good instead of the things that aren't going well. I talk about being really choosy with who we surround ourselves with, because what we expose ourselves to on television, on social media, in our groups of friends really kind of affects us And then I talk about how not everyone's going to agree with you. And sometimes people are going to push back on you, not because they are trying to be mean-spirited or manipulate you. They're just fearful for you. They don't want you to struggle or be uncomfortable, or maybe they're a little intimidated by the big goals that you're setting. And so it's, hey, how to kind of stay strong and stay with it, even in the face of others saying, God, I don't know. Are you sure you can do that? Or you really want to run a marathon? Maybe you're going to get injured. And so it goes through a lot of these kinds of things. It talks about fear and the role fear can play in holding us back. And then I guess, as I've mentioned before, that brain of ours, that subconscious mind that kind of tries to keep us safe, doesn't like change, doesn't want us to be uncomfortable. And so, yeah, it sort of walks us through sort of a process when we're trying to start new habits or blow up our lives into something fantastic and great. All these little pitfalls the average person faces and how to overcome them. So yeah, and the book is all things at one point I did not know, did not practice. And then at some point I figured it out kind of around the time of that breakup. And these habits changed my life, total transformation. So yeah, it's very much self-taught and self-led.
I love that. You know, in an age of ChatGPT and you can literally Google CEO or how to play lacrosse, like you need people that have actually walked in it and done it outside of credentials and, again, ability to find stuff on the internet and print your own certificate. You need people to walk in it and have actually done it. I want to pick out one specifically because I think fear has come up a lot in this conversation, but in our lives, and you can be young or you can be, you know, our age or older or whatever. And I think we have these fears that kind of come out of nowhere because our life changes sometimes without us knowing. I've even done some internal check-ins recently, been like, God, I've created such a safe space in certain areas because, you know, I was so used to competing so hard and going to the next level. Like now it's all kind of consistent. And I'm like, oh, okay, we got to like rock the boat here a little bit. But as a young person, you're starting out, you know, the world's overwhelming. You don't know if you're going to college or trade school, or maybe you're taking a year off, or maybe you're not interested in school. Maybe you're being a pro athlete, whatever. Like there's huge decisions happening and there's so much fear around everything. Is there any good words of advice or habits you could say for our young people really, you know, taking the next step, but like what kind of mindset should they have and how should they approach, you know, these life-changing steps right in front of them, and a lot of them?
Yeah, and those are all great examples. I think as a young person, making any of those decisions feels kind of overwhelming because you think like, well, what if I get it wrong? Probably the best thing I would say for a young person kind of making these what seems like giant decisions is that they're not permanent, actually. If you go into college or you pick a major or you decide to go to a trade school or just start right into the workforce, you don't have to stay with it forever. It doesn't have to be the rest of your life. We get a lot of goes at it. And so we can experiment with something and say, hey, I gave that 2 years or I went down that path. And by being on the road, I realized the path wasn't for me. I'm really happy for what I learned on the path, but I can kind of start back up it and take a different path. One of my favorite quotes about fear is that fear inhibits action, but action can overcome fear. When we feel afraid, we tend to get in this crippled kind of place where we do nothing. Like we just sit and think about it. And that's one of the worst places to be. I always tell people to cultivate courage. Courage isn't an absence of fear. It's us deciding something's more important and we act anyway with the fear. And so for anyone that feels kind of frozen in analysis paralysis, I would say, recognize it's not forever. It doesn't have to be permanent. Just make some decision, test it out and try it. And then if you don't like what your experience is, you get to kind of, go at it again more intelligently, just like Thomas Edison did. So those would be a few things I would say. I know that's hard, but the beauty is by practicing these things, we actually get better at it. The more we confront fear and push through anyway, the next time we have fear, it becomes easier to say, well, I was really afraid to ski, or I was really afraid to go to that public speaking thing, or I was really afraid to end that relationship that stopped feeling good to me. But you know what? I did it and it all ended up being okay. And so now I've got this next thing that's scaring me. Maybe I'll be okay on that as well if I just take this action and I trust myself. Oh, and final thought on this, listening to our inner voice. You mentioned gut and intuition before. I think so often we kind of start asking friends and family and we get all this input and then we lose track of our own voice. I think deep down, a lot of us have the answers right within our heart. And so anytime someone's feeling afraid, kind of stopping, pausing, like we've talked about, and say, why am I afraid? What is it that I'm scared of? What is my heart telling me to do here? And then letting that voice kind of reign superior I think those are some things that have helped me, at least when I've had fear.
So well said. I agree. I think building that muscle to address here, and just like when you're a kid, you fall on the playground, you get up and you just go jump on the next piece of the playground, and it's not a big deal. But we lose that as we get older. So it's like building those reps and just kind of staying in the game. I am curious because this has come up for me personally of like you know, we're going to get the degree, we're going to do that, we're going to do all the right things. And then retrospect, I look back, and this is what I tell my young self is, do all the stuff, but usually God, universe, Madonna is building these lessons without you even looking. So just let go, like relax a little bit.
Yeah.
So because the lessons and the things are happening for my young peeps, I'm like, yes, have a plan or do whatever. I actually don't have a 5-year plan, but show up, do your thing, and then kind of be ready because stuff is preparing you, like your breakup, for what you're actually going to do. Does that resonate with you at all, or do you have a different or better way to say it?
It does. You know, one thing I would say is, and I'm not sure if this is exactly what you're saying, so you tell me, but the law of attraction, what we think about grows, or what we focus on grows. I'm this big believer that what we put out into the universe, we get back. And so if we're compassionate, if we're courageous, if we're confident, if we're authentic, we're going to attract people, opportunities, parts of life to us that are also those things. And so I do think you're right. Over engineering it or over stressing about it isn't necessary. When we show up as a good person and we live that truth that we have, good things tend to follow. And so I do think for some of us, it's important to just slow down and be present in the moment and not thinking about tomorrow. Where's my life going to go in 10 years? It's like, hey, am I just making decisions I felt good about today? Am I trusting my God? Did I show up in ways that I'm proud of? The universe usually rewards us for doing that. So I'm not sure if that aligns with what you're saying, but that was my thought when I heard what you said.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Because then if you get, deeper into that, just relax and let go, because we don't control a lot. I mean, even if in high achievers, we all try and control things as much as possible. I'm going to train more, read more books, get another degree, whatever the story might be. But the reality is, like, you don't control it. And that in itself can cortisol and stress and just mental health. But yes, then the next step, shifting the mindset of to like, okay, what am I actually thinking about? Like, what am I bringing in? And however you believe, not everybody loves kind of like the woo, but a lot of it's just physics, more science, but it's really that practice of letting go and then focusing intentionally outside of doing of what you're thinking. Do you have a specific skill set or tool for our young people and like setting mindset without getting too far into the weeds, but just like a young person's version of like being aware of what's going on inside the brain?
Yeah, I do think sometimes when people pause and say, what makes me happy? The times that I spend where I sort of lose track of time, what was I doing in those moments? What kind of lights me up inside? I'm getting very clear on what those things are, and then making sure every single week has some of those things. I think that kind of grounds us in, hey, life is good. I'm a person with unique talents and capabilities. It just seems like very important for us to know the things that bring us joy, bring us peace, calm us, where we feel most like ourselves, and to spend time in those. I think when we're not doing that, that's a sign that we're getting way too wrapped up in other people's expectations for us. We've stopped defining success for ourselves.
I love it. There's so many gems. And I really encourage, if you're a parent listening or you're someone under 18, I would really encourage you to go check out all of Amy's conversations, her books, what she has going on. I think your story is really applicable to our kids graduating, because I think we are kind of sold this dream early of what we should do versus what we want to do. And there's nothing wrong with going down that path of the should, because sometimes there are lessons there that we need to learn, and that's how clarity comes. But it'd be nice to have some of the things she talks about in your tool belt as you're starting out life, or 40 plus, still kind of figuring it out. So I love what you're doing. And I think your energy is great. I will encourage you on the air to start your own podcast and further put the voice out there. But tell us, Amy, is there anything coming up, and where do we give us details on where we find you, handles, Instagram, websites, whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few things. Both of my books are actually classes. I've got a 13 and a 26-week class for both books. As of right now, I'm only offering them to corporate organizations. Soon I might change that and just bring it to the public. But if someone's working in an organization and actually likes the idea of these principles, please reach out to me, get on my calendar. I've got a calendar link right on my website. It'd be fun to talk about if your organization could benefit from hearing these principles taught to their employees or peers or colleagues in a 13-week class. I am working on my third book. I think the title is going to be Couldn't Run a Mile. And so it's a book about kind of overcoming a situation where we really don't think we can have greatness and success, and kind of going from this sort of negative kind of fixed mindset into a growth mindset. So Couldn't Run a Mile. I plan to launch that probably by beginning of 2026. And then I guess just throwing it out there, if anyone wants to buy habits and they buy it on my website, which is amymchambers.com, the code habits15 will give them 15% off. And I ship out books, every other day or so. So they'll get it very quickly if they do it that way. So a few things for people to consider, but right on my website, Amy M. Chambers, people can book time with me. And I just like meeting new people and hearing people's stories. So there's no charge for that or anything. It's just a free fun call. So yeah, a few things there.
I love it. I love it. I got to say on the mile front, if you're starting exercise late, there's such an advantage because your body is so much fresher. And like as a college athlete, lifelong athlete, like we're still good. We're in there. But when people are like, oh, I started CrossFit when I was 40, I'm like, oh my God, your body is so much more fresh. So like you shouldn't be discouraged. You should be encouraged. And what a beautiful metaphor for approaching any other challenge in life. So I'm with it. Let us know when the book comes out.
I sure will. Absolutely.
All right, I want to give some love to our sponsors, Colorado Clownfish Swim School, swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. We believe in life skills through sports, so come waterproof your family today. ColoradoClownfish.com. Go check them out. It's all ages. Swimming is a life skill, so above all other sports, you got to know how to swim. Our very own Declan James watches, veteran-owned, DeclanJamesWatches.com. Go check them out. Amy, keep doing the damn thing. We love what's going on. Stay in touch with us. Be sure to check us out wherever you get your podcast, and this video will be on YouTube. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.